Warning: the following program may contain language and other elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been fucking warned.
Hey guys, Johnny Farrow here, and welcome to another episode of Musician Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make my mom's awesome French toast casserole bake. And I actually have her recipe here that she sent to me. I've made this a couple times before, but it's been a while, and I kind of want to keep it pretty much true to the recipe, but I do have a couple extra ingredients I added. So here's what we got here. We got a loaf of bread, we got some milk, breakfast sausage, eggs, cream cheese, butter, maple syrup, and then vanilla and cinnamon, which are ingredients that I've added, okay? So this is really killer, and with the bread particularly, by the way, my mom specifies to get something crusty. So this is a sourdough, so something like that, or an Italian pane, or, you know, just something with some crust. Like the regular white bread crap you get is not going to cut it for this recipe, okay? So we're going to get started here with a little mise en place. And for those of you that don't know, mise en place actually is French. It means everything in its place. And it's basically talking about prep, right? It's the things you do to prep for a dish. So I'm going to start off by melting a stick of butter. Now my mom calls for 6 tablespoons. To be totally honest with you, I'm fucking lazy. And 8 tablespoons is a stick, and this is just being used to grease our pan later anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole damn stick and not worry about it. And I'm just going to have that going on a low heat while I'm doing the rest of my mise en place here, just because it's more efficient, you know? And then we're going to start off here by cubing up some bread. Now this is, my mom calls for 16 ounces of bread, a pound of bread. This is a pound and a half, right? Now this is a great recipe, by the way, to use your ends for. What we're going to be doing with this bread here is we're going to be cutting it into cubes, basically. Now I usually, for this, try to get a loaf of bread that's not already cut so I can cut it thicker. So I just got, the store I was at didn't have that option. So I just kind of got whatever I could get my hands on where I was shopping tonight. So cutting this into cubes, and I'm going to kind of do this a little rough because it doesn't have to be like freaking perfect, right? Taking a serrated knife, it's got your stack of bread here. Pulling the knife through. And then I kind of like mine coarse, so I'm not going to go any more strips than that, and just cutting into about, roughly about 1 inch to 1.5 inches cubes, or dices, or whatever you want to call them. And this is also a really good recipe, by the way, for using up older bread that's not, I wouldn't quite use stale bread, because, I guess you could, but more like just bread that's kind of on its way out. It's not moldy, but it's not super fresh, because it'll soak all the, all the wet ingredients to this dish up, and then it'll just end up being really, really nice. And that's actually traditionally how French toast started, by the way, is to use up bread that was kind of stale and old and a little tough. And that was what the inventors of that dish did as a solution. They made French toast. It was fucking awesome. And we have them to thank now for it. All right, we're going to go ahead and set these aside. Checking on my butter here. And we're doing just fine. Okay, next. We have 2 things we need to cube up. We have the breakfast sausage and the cream cheese, 8 ounces of cream cheese and just a package of breakfast sausage. Now, these are pre-cooked breakfast sausages, so you don't need to, they're like fully like cooked through. So you're really throwing them in, they're just going to get warmed up. If you have totally raw breakfast sausage, you can totally brown it in a pan before you throw it in. Honestly, this dish will cook long enough that it shouldn't be a problem. You don't even need to. If I use the raw, though, I do like to brown it and up a little bit and get it a little bit of that crispy outside happening, right? So, and I apologize for not being better organized here, but going to start with our sausages. These smell good right out of the pack too. These are going to be incredible, I can tell already. And then what I'm going to do with these guys, take them a few at a time, and just cut them into, again, like, not quite 1 inch, But, you know, just these little nubs, right? These little Scooby snack size pieces. Probably like 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch pieces, you know. All right, and then we're gonna also cube up our cream cheese. I like to keep the cream cheese in the fridge right up until I'm getting ready to cut it, just because it's more firm than when you're cutting it, which just makes for a much easier time for you. And if you really want to be fancy and really be all mise en place, super sexy, you can get all this shit opened up before you even start any of your meal prep, and then you can just go bam, 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 like one thing to the next without having to pause to open packages and annoying crap like that, right? See, it's still nice and pretty solid to pull out of there. Alright. And the cream cheese will stick to your knife a little bit, so just kind of be ready for that. And again, we're just cutting these into cubes, you know, probably about like 1/2 inch. They're going to get spread around a 9x13 dish, so I want to have a fair amount to move around. So cut them into like, similar to the sausage, about like 1/2 to 3/4 inch cubes. Something you can spread around, you know. Now, onto our eggs. Our eggs and our wet mix. Now we're going to do 10 eggs in a bowl here. Gotta make sure I got my recipe with me too, so I don't fuck up Mom's awesome casserole recipe. Getting all my ingredients here. Our butter's almost all the way there melted. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. So, as I said, 10 eggs going into this dish. Crack-a-lackin'. And for anyone that wants that's ever tried to do the one-handed crack thing, not all that complicated. Do your crack, and then your hands kind of become like little pincers, right? And you just kind of, I got between my thumb and my index finger as the one side, and I kind of have my middle finger wrapped around the other one, and then just kind of, you know, a little pincer kind of a movement, right? And then, ooh, I need me a measuring cup. And I will measure the milk, because it's a larger amount of milk, and I want to make sure I get that right. So we got 2.5 cups. So we got this whole thing. Going into my dish. Then another 1/2 cup. Bada bing. Lovely, lovely. Now, this one I'm not going to measure, but it's 1/4 cup of maple syrup goes in here as well. And this excites me. I love maple syrup. So about 1/4 cup. So, a little heavy is okay. Ain't going to hurt nothing. It's just going to make it more awesome. And then these are my 2 additions that I'm doing here. I'm going to throw a little bit of vanilla extract. Let's do like about a tablespoon of that. And then some cinnamon, as Emerald would say. And we're going to throw in throw in a couple tablespoons of that, just to give it more of like that, for me, what I consider to be kind of that classic French toast taste, right? Then, grab Mr. Fork here and get these all beaten up. Beat it! Beat it! Just kidding. Sorry, Jackson family, if I butchered your song. And again, I'm using a fork here. If you want to use a whisk, you can go ahead. I don't get that fancy. I just find the fork to be more practical, a little easier to wield, to use, you know. You just want to get this beaten until the yolks are all broken up and everything is nice and incorporated. All right. This is pretty much all the parts of our casserole. So now we're going to assemble this bitch. And to do that, we're going to grab a 9x13 dish. We're going to start out by putting, well actually before we even do this, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. We're going to start out by buttering this thing so it's nice and, so it doesn't, shit doesn't stick, right? And normally I would have a basting brush, like a silicone brush or something to brush this on. Unfortunately, I don't have one currently, so I'm going to pour this in, and I'm going to go real old school and use a paper towel to just move it around a little bit, because it is still warm and I don't want to burn my fucking hand, you know what I'm saying? It's just paper towel. Make sure you get up the sides. Super duper important, because that's kind of the main culprit for stickage typically on this, is the sides. And this, by the way, if you're doing this technique versus a basting brush, is another reason to go ahead and just use a full stick of butter instead of the 6 tablespoons, because some of the butter will inevitably get soaked into your paper towel. Good. Nice and soaked. I'm going to go ahead and just wring this out a little bit, because look at all that butter. Look at all that fucking butter. Oh, so good. This is a classic Gustafaro family recipe. This is my mom, my grandma. All of them loved butter, and I mean loved. My Nana especially. So this is very much up their alley. Okay, good. Now, we're going to take half of our bread and just layer the bottom of this pan. Roughly half. Ain't no one's going to shoot you if you're a little off on your measurement here. All right. Then, spreading around cream cheese cubes and sausage. And just kind of rando, you don't got to be exact about it or anything. Just, get them distributed, get them around. And, oh, this is going to be so good. This is like one of my favorite things that my mom makes. It's one of the things like when I don't get it every time I go home to visit, but the times I do, boy, it's always memorable and it's always delicious. And then, sausage spreading around as well. And by the way, if you prefer bacon, you can totally pre-cook some bacon and use bacon on this instead. That's totally acceptable. My mom always used sausage. That's just always how I've done it. But, again, ain't no one going to hate you if you go with the bacon on this guy. All right. And that, by the way, is like a 12-ounce pack of bacon. Okay. Now, going ahead and putting the rest of our bread over the top, just again spreading it around. And I probably could have used more of my bread on the bottom, honestly. If you're going to go heavier on your bread, like if you're going to be off, when you use too much bread on either the top or the bottom, go heavy on the bottom and not the top, is my suggestion. But whatever, it really is just whatever you like. Okay, good. And then, we're going to take our mixture, our wet mixture. And I like to give it a quick little beat before I drop it all in here, just to make sure everything, again, is fully incorporated for optimal distribution. Then just go ahead and dump this in, and spread it out nice and evenly. Oh, yeah, man. That's the shit. And then what you want to do is give it a little press to make sure all of the bread on top gets hit with that egg mixture. Like the bread all ideally needs to be soaked in this stuff, right? Like that's kind of what makes it French toast, just go around a couple times, make sure you got a good soak happening there. Oh, we missed a couple. Look at that. You guys can't get away. You can't get away. What are you doing? All right. So this is pretty good. And you look, you can see everything's got a nice coverage on it. Everything's wet. Everything's got some egg wash. It's all wet, right? So now what we're going to do, this needs to sit actually for a minimum of 2 hours, as much as overnight. So this can sit for, like 8 to 12 hours, right? Just letting everything soak and meld and join together. So I'm actually going to put this into my fridge overnight. Again, 2 hours minimum. If it's 2 hours, it's going to be great. So, if you only got 2 hours, that's fine. But give yourself at least 2 hours to let this soak before baking. So go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and cover this up, throw it in the fridge. We're going to come back in the morning, throw this bitch in the oven, and we are going to feast. Stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so we're back. This has been in the fridge overnight, so it's soaked for, about 12 hours or so. And you'll see, here, I'll take the plastic off. By the way, I did cover this with plastic wrap, as you can use foil or whatever you got. You can see this is just all like nice and soaked and gorgeous, right? I'm actually going to press down one more time, just go around one more time on this, just to make sure that these top pieces got some moisture happening. And my oven has been preheating for 325 degrees. It's been preheating for like probably about 10 minutes now, so it's about ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and toss this guy in the oven 1 hour at 325 or until the egg is set. So if you toss it in for an hour, you check it and it's still a little bit goopy, let it go for another like 5-10 minutes and kind of check it in increments. So we're going to throw this in the oven, come back in about an hour, and we're going to eat this motherfucker. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so we're back, and oh my fucking God, would you just look at that casserole? Oh my goodness, that smells incredible. See, it's got this nice, all the egg is nice and settled in there with everything, and then it's got this gorgeous crispy browning that's happening up top, and it is just the most delicious thing ever. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get a little piece of this on a plate. Be very careful because this will be hot as fuck. Oh, God, get in my mouth. And did plenty on the butter, so that's just coming off nice. And yes, that is what the fuck I'm talking about. Throw a little drizzle of maple syrup on that. And that is breakfast, my friends. There you go, my mom's French toast casserole bake. It is, the smell coming off of this is like, it's just blowing my mind right now. Super easy recipe, really great to do. You pop it together the night before, throw it in the fridge. Good to do if you got friends coming over for like an overnight thing. Really cool for morning after like a wedding or a party or something like that. It's just a great dish that's really easy to make, and it's a crowd pleaser. So guys, let me know how you like this video in the comments below. Check the description below for the recipe for this. And guys, until next video, I'm Johnny Farrow. Have an amazing rest of your week. I'll see you on the next video. Mwah.